Ouagadougou was steeped in tension after rumors of a failed coup erupted in Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traoré, the youthful president known for his strong opposition to foreign intervention, went through the presidential palace halls trying to keep his emotions in check. The defeat of the coup attempt did not mean the dangers were over. On the contrary, it may attract more hazardous foes. Fatoumata Diallo, an investigative journalist, was following leads in the city center in search of the truth behind the coup. Diallo was known for her zeal to uncover the truth, and she was willing to risk her life in the process. The people deserve to know the truth, she informed her aide, positioning her camera to capture military activities on the streets. Turkish planes landed at the military airfield at night, bringing elite forces under Colonel Murat Yilmaz's leadership. Their aim was clear: protect Ibrahim Traoré and build a strategic presence in the Sahel. The soldiers moved precisely, avoiding attention. However, their entrance did not go unnoticed. The native community questioned the alien presence. In the palace, Traoré's seasoned advisor, Amadou Konato, was debating the next actions. "This alliance with Turkey will either be our salvation or our downfall," he told us. Traoré nodded, cognizant of the serious political implications of receiving foreign aid. He realized he needed to tread carefully in the midst of these tangled interests. Behind the scenes, the coup plotters' leader, Lieutenant Colonel Yahya Diarra, was devising fresh plans. "The Turks may have better weapons, but no one knows this land better than us," he assured his fellow soldiers. His purpose was clear: to destabilize the administration and grab power at all costs. The Turkish patrols were met with distrust across the city. Some saw them as a defensive force, while others feared a loss of sovereignty. Tensions were growing, and the country appeared to be entering a new phase of instability. For Traoré, this was a watershed moment. He was well aware that his decisions would have an impact on Burkina Faso's future, and the weight of that obligation fell heavily on him. The political chessboard was arranged, and everyone waited for the next move. As the Turkish presence became more established, Ouagadougou's streets took on a new energy. Joint patrols between Burkina Faso and Turkish soldiers grew more prevalent, but this did little to reduce tensions. Many residents publicly questioned foreign influence, while others welcomed the coming of an army capable of defending the country. Fatoumata Diallo maintained her hunt for the truth, conducting interviews with both citizens and military. She was able to obtain an interview with a Turkish officer who spoke fluent French. "We're here to help, not dominate," the officer added, yet his wary face inspired Diallo to probe deeper. In an abandoned hangar where Diarra was organizing his men, a sense of urgency persisted. "They're disorganized. We can strike now," said an ally. Diarra nodded, but urged prudence. "We can't afford to fail again," he said, drawing plans on an improvised map. The crew was determined to attack the system's weaknesses. Colonel Murat Yilmaz was watching suspicious activity. Intelligence sources indicated unusual activity throughout the city. "We need to anticipate their moves," he instructed his officers. Yilmaz used drones to monitor rural places and increased patrols at key locations. He was aware that making a mistake may jeopardize both the mission and Turkey's standing in the region. Amadou Konaté was attempting to arbitrate between various groups in the government. Some officials completely welcomed the Turkish partnership, while others were concerned that it would diplomatically isolate Burkina Faso. "We need to find a balance," Konaté insisted during a tense discussion. "The people won't tolerate more division." The public began organizing peaceful protests to demand economic solutions and transparency. "Enough war!" exclaimed a woman at a party. "We want peace." Her comments reverberated throughout the throng, offering hope despite the pandemonium. As the days passed, it became evident that the situation was far from over. Each side had its own reasons and methods, and Burkina Faso's future depended on decisions that were yet to be made. Traoré faced a massive challenge: but he understood there was no time for indecision. The tension in Ouagadougou increased over the next few days. Traoré spent hours analyzing reports of suspicious activity throughout the city. He was well aware that even the tiniest error may cost him both his leadership and the country's destiny. "We must be ready for anything," he warned Konaté in a private meeting. Fatoumata Diallo pursued her investigations, focused on Turkish forces' operations. She traveled to rural areas where Turkish forces had established temporary bases. In a conversation with a local farmer, she learned about the anxiety produced by the patrols. "They say they're protecting us, but it feels like they just want to control us," a man remarked. Diarra was getting his soldiers ready for a strategic attack. "Tomorrow evening, we'll hit the Turkish military convoy," he said, pointing to a precise place on the map. "If we succeed, we'll show the world we're not afraid." His followers celebrated, but some paused, frightened of the consequences. Colonel Yilmaz warned of possible threats and increased security measures. "We can't let them strike first," he instructed his officers. He used drones to monitor sensitive sites and increased patrols at high-risk zones. He was determined to demonstrate Turkey's capabilities in the Sahel. Konaté attempted to persuade Traoré to pursue diplomatic solutions. "If we open a dialogue with the opposition, we might prevent further bloodshed," the politician argued. Traoré listened intently, but his expression was unreadable. He was well aware that making the wrong move may spell tragedy. In the city's poorer neighborhoods, residents began hosting impromptu gatherings to explore how to urge the administration for peaceful solutions. "Enough war!" exclaimed a young woman at one gathering. "We want peace, not more weapons." Her words struck a chord with the audience, providing optimism among the distrust. As the pieces on the political chessboard started to move, it became evident that the issue would not be simply settled. Each side had its own goals and plans, and Burkina Faso's future rested on unresolved issues. Traoré felt crushed by the weight of this obligation, yet he knew there was no time for indecision. The first gunshots rang on the city's outskirts at night, indicating that a long night lied ahead. The attack headed by Diarra caused severe damage to the Turkish convoy, but the Turks returned quickly, surrounding the location and forcing the attackers to flee. "They're good, but not invincible," Diarra mumbled as he escaped with his troops. Traoré's expression darkened within the palace as he learnt more about the conflict. "This can't go on," he told Konaté. "We need to make a decision now." Konaté nodded, but reminded him of the dangers of fast action. "One wrong step could ruin everything," he told me. Fatoumata Diallo arrived on the scene shortly after the conflict had ended. She witnessed the devastation and spoke with evacuated injured Turkish soldiers. "They came to protect us, but who will protect their people?" inquired a young farmer watching the event. Diallo took notice of his comments, knowing that the core of the dilemma rested in the tension between protection and dominance. Colonel Yilmaz, angered by the attack, ordered a thorough search of the region. "I want those responsible found and neutralized," he stated authoritatively. He also delivered a direct message to Traoré. "If we want to win, we must act as one force." Traoré acknowledged Yilmaz's point but was hesitant to totally hand over sovereignty to the Turks. Diarra gathered his men in another hideout. "They'll counterattack and we'll be ready," he vowed, though some allies began to doubt his leadership. "Are we fighting for our freedom or just for revenge?" a man questioned. Diarra was unable to answer immediately, but he understood he needed to keep the group together. In the city's poorer neighborhoods, the public began to organize. Community leaders convened spontaneous meetings to discuss how to urge the administration for peaceful solutions. "Enough war!" exclaimed a woman at one gathering. "We want peace, not more weapons." Her comments reverberated throughout the throng, offering hope despite the pandemonium. Traoré regarded this as a watershed moment. Regardless of external relationships, he knew Burkina Faso's fate was in the hands of its people. It was time to make a decision that would either bring the country together or seal its fate for good. Traoré's judgment was made public through a statewide broadcast. He called for a temporary ceasefire and invited the leaders of all factions to a historic summit in Ouagadougou. "We cannot continue destroying ourselves while foreign powers dictate our future," he remarked, his voice stern and emotional. Some saw the speech skeptically, while others regarded it as a potential for peace. Fatoumata Diallo paid great attention to the meeting's preparations. She spoke with local community representatives, who indicated a combination of hope and suspicion. "If they truly want to resolve this, they need to listen to the people," stated a community leader during an impromptu meeting. Diallo realized she had a unique opportunity to capture a pivotal moment in Burkina Faso's history. Diarra was originally hesitant, but eventually consented to attend under pressure from his allies. "Let's see what he has to say," he said, still with concerns. When he entered the meeting hall, he was surprised to see not just government officials, but also regular individuals, religious leaders, and Turkish military in attendance. During the meeting, Konaté managed the proceedings to ensure that everyone had an opportunity to speak. One of the most devastating moments occurred when a young farmer woman spoke out and detailed how the conflicts had ruined her family. "We're tired of losing our children in wars we don't understand," she stated, eliciting passionate cheers. Even Diarra appeared impacted by her remarks. Colonel Yilmaz, present as an observer, saw a shift in the scenario. During a break, he approached Traoré and said quietly, "Perhaps we underestimated the power of dialogue." Traoré nodded, indicating a symbolic yet significant triumph. The Turks began to quietly withdraw, allowing the Burkinabé to take control of the situation. At the conclusion of the meeting, a provisional agreement was reached. Turkish patrols would continue, but with combined monitoring from local forces. Diarra and his men promised to stop the attacks, and the government agreed to look into the core causes of military discontent. It wasn't the ideal solution, but it was a start. The atmosphere in Ouagadougou began to alter over the next few days. Barricades were removed from the streets, and markets resumed normal operations. Many people remained cautious, but their sense of accomplishment rose. For Traoré, this was the first step towards an uncertain but conceivable future. As the weeks passed, a new dynamic developed in the country. Turkish forces remained, but their role became less prominent, with an emphasis on training and logistics. Colonel Yilmaz left, stating that Turkey will continue to support Burkina Faso, but the country's future relied on its own actions. "You have something rare here," he informed Traoré before getting on his plane. "Don't squander it." Fatoumata Diallo released her final report on the events, titled "The Weight of Peace." She emphasized how discourse had triumphed over violence, but cautioned that obstacles remained. Burkina Faso is learning that freedom is won not only with weapons, but also with courage and understanding, she said, concluding on a positive note. Yahya Diarra decided to forsake the armed struggle and return to regular life. He established a small business in his community, offering young people alternatives to war. "I've seen enough. I know that war solves nothing," he told a local reporter. While some looked him suspiciously, many respected his bravery in choosing a new route. Amadou Konaté worked relentlessly to implement the improvements outlined at the meeting. He concentrated on ensuring that the administration kept its promises to address dissident soldiers' problems. "This is true leadership," he told Traoré one day. "Building bridges where there are divides." Ibrahim Traoré eventually got time to think on the occurrences. He visited a rural village and was greeted with music and dance. Children went up to hug him, and for the first time in a long time, he felt like he belonged. "The future will be difficult," he warned a gathering of elders. "But if we stay united, we can overcome anything." As the sun sank over Burkina Faso, the roadway's red dust took on a new radiance. The country still faced enormous challenges, but something had changed in the air, a newfound sense of hope, fueled by the determination of its people. For many, this was the start of a new age. So, beneath the broad African sky, Burkina Faso pressed on, knowing the road was long and treacherous. but also understanding that a nation's strength resided not